Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 3. We have another great session planned for you this week where we'll be covering a bit about actually how to hold the golf club properly, how to swing, how to get the most out of your movements, as well as some key terminology that will make you more familiar with the ins and outs of all things golf.
So last week, we all talked a little bit about going to the driving range and the best etiquette for using the practice facilities at the club. We wanted to expand on that a little bit today and bring you some key parts of the swing that you can work on the driving range or even at home. You might not have time or availability right now to book in for a lesson. So we're going to start by giving you some swing basics and get you started with the grip. The grip's the most important part of this golf swing, so here's a quick video from Robyn about how to create the best grip.
Hi guys, I'm going to talk about the grip. It's the most important part of the golf swing, so make sure you're paying attention. So I've put some dots on my hands. I have one on the top hand, on the thumb, right on the top. And then on the bottom hand, we put a dot here in that little crest on our palm. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this top hand and we're going to put it down the grip with our thumb nicely on top. Then all we're going to do is we're going to match this dot to the one on our thumb and create our grip. As you can see, my thumbs are both on top of the grip and they're pointing straight down the club. I've got these little arrows created with my thumbs that are pointing to my right shoulder. There are a couple different types of grips. When you're a beginner, we often recommend the 10-finger grip because you're getting a lot more stability. You can also do interlocking with these two fingers, and then you can also do overlapping. All of them, it's very important that the rest of the fingers are perfectly flat on the grip. We don't want any overlapping with any other fingers. So, 10-finger, interlock, overlap. It's really important when you're taking your grip not to hold too tightly, but not to hold too loosely. Nice and light, and it's also really important to keep those thumbs on top. This is how you do the grip.
So now that we know how to hold the club, here's Ashley with how to get set up to the ball and how to start your backswing.
Okay, as women, we're not exactly sure what to do with our arms and our chest. My number one drill is the coil drill. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your left hand if you're a right-handed golfer, scoop your right hand underneath, okay? So now when you take your backswing, you're simply going to graze your chest and bring your arm back. Now this does two things. Number one, it shows you my arm, my elbow pointing down towards the ground. If you were a waitress, you could carry a tray. If your elbow gets out like this, more like a ball player, we call that the chicken wing in golf. The other thing it does is it helps you feel what your left arm's supposed to feel, which we want to keep this arm as nice and straight as possible. So I'll show again. So you just graze your chest, and as soon as you touch your chin, that's as far as your backswing needs to go. I'll show you from the side. Again, left hand first, right hand, back of your hands touching. In your position, you're gonna push back and come back to impact. All right, that's the coil drill. Now that we know how to coil and use our strength and power in our swing, the final piece of the puzzle is the follow through.
All right guys, so Ashley talked about the coil and the backswing, and now I'm going to talk about the follow through. I like to call it the TV finish, and Ashley references this also at some point in this episode, where the TV finish is super important. After you've done your backswing and you go to do your follow through, it's important that all of our weight is getting onto the front leg. This means that the power that we generated in the backswing is now being put into the golf ball. This is going to give us distance. Now, as you can see, when I finish, my heel is pointing to the sky. We like to say you can balance a drink on your heel. So whether it's wine or beer or like your favorite drink, or for juniors we say like a chocolate milk or a pop, whatever it is, we want to be able to sit something right on the heel. If we finish like this, our heel is on the ground and we don't get a drink. That's how you can remind yourself. So it's really important when you're swinging, no matter what kind of shot you hit, you finish, everything's pointing to the target, chest, belly button, heels pointing to the sky, and that means that we at least look like we know what we're doing. So that's the TV finish.
All right. Some really great things to work on at the driving range to prepare us when we go out on the golf course. Again, we definitely recommend, it's really important to take a lesson, but in the meantime, here are some things that you can work on.
Okay, so it seems like we have some of the main pieces of the puzzle now, but how do we put it all together? So Ashley, is there something that you recommend to your students, like a checklist or kind of like something to go through in their mind before they take a shot?
Yes, Brittany. So what I recommend with my students is to go through the same sort of setup every single time so that they can get some consistency. And so what that looks like is you're going to stand up really tall, hinge at the hips, so your butt's sticking out a little bit, and slightly bend your knees. Now, we want the weight to be on the balls of our feet and not heels. As women, we have a tendency to keep the weight too much on our heels, and we stand up in order for our center of gravity so that we can bounce. So by keeping the weight more by the balls of your feet, it'll make you have a more athletic stance, which generates power using your lower body. Now, the next thing you're going to do is Robyn did the grip for you. You're going to work on my coil drill. So if you're a right-handed golfer, you're going to try and graze your chest and bring your left hand straight back. Then when we start the downswing, we want our hands to start, hips are coming, and then we hit impact, and then we want our photo finish, like Robyn said. Now, your finish will tell you a lot about your golf swing without Robyn and I having to be there to check on you. If your hands are finishing tight to your chest and your weight's all on your back foot, then you know that you've done it incorrectly. We want you to finish up nice and tall, protecting that lower back, weight on your front foot. And I always say that if you can balance a glass of wine off your back foot, then you know you've transferred your weight properly. And we all don't want to spill any wine.
Right.
No, definitely not. Is there anything that you guys could recommend? Because I know a lot of beginners have a problem with topping the ball. So any tips or tricks that might help with that kind of stuff?
I think, yeah, that's not just beginners. I think so many people have this struggle. And I think one of the biggest sort of misconceptions with golf is that you need to keep your head down. Everyone says, oh, I lifted my head, or I need to keep my head down. Well, I mean,
that's Robyn. That's the number one answer from your husband when you're golfing. Is that's
Yeah.
their get out of free card. That is their answer for everything, every shot.
yes. So basically, when you get into your posture, which Ashley describes, and you will see when both of us have put our videos about different parts of the swing, it's about keeping your back and your spine at that same angle through the whole swing that you from the place that you start. So when you start, you're bent over, you've got your hands hanging below your chin and your bum sticking backwards, just like Ashley mentioned. And it needs to stay at that angle all the way through your backswing and all the way until you actually make contact with the ball. You can then come up at the end, as Ashley said, to protect your back. Everything's nice and tall for that TV finish. But instead of trying to keep your head down, just think, okay, I want to keep my back at the same level. Because if I keep my head down, you can't actually do anything. And then that's the kind of misconception everyone thinks. If my back comes up, so does my head, but it's not just my head. So that's kind of my tip for that.
Maybe same thing too, if your back goes down, that's when you get that big chunky shot too. So.
Yes, you're right, Britt. That's right.
Which happens to a lot of us as well. Okay, awesome. So what could someone expect? I know a few of our viewers have had questions about what happens at a lesson, how they get prepared for it, and what they can expect at the lesson.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess people are probably a bit nervous. They want to get started, but like anything, when you've never done it before, it can be a bit nerve-wracking. I'm pretty relaxed, and I'm sure Ashley's the same way. If you want to book a lesson, usually you call the pro shop, or if you have a email contact for the teaching pro, just reach out and say, hey, I'm a beginner. I really want to get some lessons or learn, some more about golf. Can I book something with you? And then basically we go through the dates, find something that works for both of us. When you come to the lesson, usually the pro will ask you before, like, oh, do you have clubs? Are you sort of prepared? What level are you at? So just answer those questions. Bring your clubs, wear comfy clothes, like we've talked about in previous episodes, proper footwear, bring a drink. I like to encourage people if they are really nervous to maybe grab a beverage, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, and maybe just like drink it as you're heading over to the driving range. And then once you get there, especially if you're working with one of us and probably for a lot of other pros, it's going to be relaxed. We like working with beginners because you kind of have this like clean slate where they don't already have really bad habits that we need to change. So you guys are some of our favorite people to work with.
Awesome. So the final thing we want to cover is how to tee up the golf ball. This is something that is very simple, but it can be difficult if you just don't know the proper way. And it's a sign too that you might be a beginner if you're having difficulty teeing up the golf ball. It's something that you do on the first shot of every hole. So we want you to be ready to take your first swing. And here's how it's done.
So we want you to feel comfortable when you're going to that first tee. So here's how to physically tee up the ball. What you want to do is take this tee and put it in your hand, just like this, between your first two fingers. Then you're going to put the ball in your hand as well. Close your hand, and now the tee is right on the ball. Then we simply stick it into the ground and leave our ball there. If we were to take this tee and try to put it in the ground like this, we're going to hurt our thumb, hurt our hand, and it's just very awkward. So put it like this, stick it in the ground, and you're on your way. Rule of thumb, make sure that ball is sticking up halfway above whatever club you're using.
So last week we discussed a little bit about actually playing golf and how to let a group play through if they catch up with you. And someone emailed us asking some questions about how long golf should actually take and how to make sure that they do get finished in the allotted amount of time. So even though we are going to discuss this in some of the future episodes, I think it's probably a great time to have a discussion about this now. Ashley, do you want to start us off touching on a bit of pace of play and just clarify for those who don't know?
Sure. And I'm also going to let you ladies in on a little secret. When your husband says he's going to golf and it's going to take him 6+ hours, he's not golfing that whole time. He's having some drinks on the patio because we don't want you out there for 6 hours. All about the train that we talked about last week, we need to keep that train moving because we've got other passengers that want to play. So a typical round of golf for 9 holes is about 2 hours, meaning that 18 holes would take you 4. So depending on the course you're playing and the length and the distance between tee and green, some will take anywhere from 4 to 4.5 hours, but we do try to keep you moving and get you back home. So the next time he tries to tell you it's 6 hours, you just send him our way.
That's so good, Ash, because that is the point. Like, we don't want to keep you on the golf course. We want you to take a swing, walk to your next shot, take another swing. You shouldn't be waiting on the group ahead of you. If that is an issue, then they should let you through, and vice versa. If there's a group behind you that you notice they're waiting on you, step to the side like Robyn explained last week and just wave them through. Otherwise, the train really gets backed up, and everyone is just a little bit frustrated when they're waiting and all of that.
Absolutely, Britt. There are a few different ways to make sure that you keep up your pace of play. Pace of play is so important, especially as beginners. We want to encourage this just because then you don't feel so awkward on the course, because unfortunately some people are not patient at all, and then it's not a good vibe. One thing that I want to mention is that you don't have to keep score. I know everyone comes home, or maybe your husband comes home, or people talk about the score that they had on the golf course. At this stage in the game, it is just about making contact, hitting, enjoying the time out there. So don't worry about keeping your score or trying to remember how many shots you had. We'll get to that stage, but it's probably not necessary right now. Another thing is that if you are a true beginner and you really are just starting, you don't necessarily have to play the entire hole. We've already mentioned that you don't have to play the full 18. You can just play 9. But you could also try just teeing up the ball, hitting your drive, or making that first tee shot, and then picking it up and going to the 100-yard marker. That will be red at most courses. And if you put your ball down there and then you play to the green, you actually get to experience the whole game of golf. You get to hit it up onto the putting green, use your putter, and try to actually get it in the hole. Sometimes people cap their total score on a hole to say, okay, I'm only going to hit it 10 times or make 10 shots, and then I'll pick up my ball and go to the next hole. But for some people, you might never get to the green in 10 shots, and then you never actually get to put the ball into the hole. So try that technique. And then there was something else.
You could also, like, instead of teeing it up off the tee deck, you could just start from the 100-yard marker and go in.
Yeah.
Was that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Oh, and then I think I was going to say that you can just tee your ball up anywhere except for on the putting green. So as a beginner, tee the ball up in the middle of the fairway, tee it up in the rough, wherever you are. It's going to help you. You're going to enjoy it more. So those are some ways that you can keep your pace moving on the golf course.
Yeah, and like if you're just going out to play, like if it's not a tournament or something, there's no reason why like you should, as a beginner, be trying to hit from behind a tree or like anything like that. Like give yourself a good shot. Like take your ball out of a rut or a hole, or like just give yourself a little advantage. There's nothing wrong with doing that when you're just out having fun.
Yeah. It's not about playing by the rules at this stage. It's about getting some good technique and enjoying the game of golf while you keep moving, so you're not out there for the entire day.
And one last tip that we have is just try to go with someone who might be a little bit more experienced, just so that they can help you as well. Maybe they know their way around the course better, so like physically you don't get lost. And also can just help you, like, you know, hey, maybe try parking your cart here, and just help with those kind of questions you might have.
I think those are great tips. And I also think it's important to tee it up to build your confidence, because as soon as you get confident and you get the ball in the air, the excitement's there, so that all of a sudden now you've put a positive memory in your brain for your post shot, so that when you go to do it again, now you're standing above the ball and you've got something positive instead of negative before you hit. So I think teeing up the ball is totally okay. I think it's a great idea. If you're going to get the ball in the air, that's the most exciting thing ever. And I also want to say is that if you do hit a bad shot, it's just one less bad shot you're ever going to hit. Just one less.
That's a good one. Yeah, so Ashley, can you also touch a bit on a format that could help increase pace of play, which is scramble, and then just tell us the difference between scramble and best ball, because a lot of people, I think, mix that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the scramble format because it does speed up play. It takes off the pressure off every player, and it allows everybody to kind of relax and get those first tee nerves out of the way, because you're not counting on your own score. So how it works is everybody tees off and you take the best shot, and you're going to hit from there and take the best shot until hold out. So that obviously increases the speed of play, but it also increases your enjoyment, because now you're not worried about every single shot you take because you have 3 other people on your team. The best ball format is if 4 people go out, you count the best score between the 4 of you. So if Robyn had a 3, I had a 4, Britt had a 4, and Carol Ann had a 5, then we're going to count Robyn's 3 for that hole and then move on to the next one.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really great to clarify that, but scramble is definitely a great way to keep the pace of play up. And as you said, add a lot more enjoyment into the game.
What's this is just a question that I had for you guys. What's your favorite format, like a fun format to play?
My favorite format is match play, because I love the fact that you can have a terrible hole and still be in it, and you'd only be 1 down or whatever your match is at. And I really like that you can fight back in match play and keep in it the whole round.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that would definitely be my favorite too. I'm just trying to think of some of the other fun formats we've done at the course before. One that's kind of cool, which you can't do on your own. It's usually like a tournament thing, but it's like 666 format. And so you get to play like, I guess you could do it on your own, but you play scramble for 6 holes and then best ball for 6 holes and then alternate shot for 6 holes. And so you have a partner that you do this with, and it just really makes the round go kind of in a completely different direction than what you would do if you were playing on your own. So playing with other people is always fun, but like a partner's one is pretty cool too.
I think for beginners, alternate
Love
shots
that.
are good. Sorry, Ash?
That wraps us up for episode 3. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're really enjoying these. If you have any questions, make sure you send them to Brittany, and head to our Facebook pages to learn about our giveaways: Goddard Sunset Golf Club, Seaforth Golf Club, and the White Squirrel Golf Club. Next week, we're focusing on short game, which is putting, and some at-home drills that are going to help you improve your game.
See you next week.
Bye, guys.